I was a young mother and wife, at that time in my life when I did not know how to be either one. This world seemed to hit you when you least expected it to. I've never had a chance to explore my sexuality or who I was as a woman. My husband took care of me, it's not like he was a bad man. But I wouldn't call him particularly handsome, and he was definitely not my first choice. But he swept me off my feet with extravagant gifts and luxury vacations. After we were married, I had no worries. My husband is 15 years older than me, and way more experienced than I am. It never mattered what he asked of me. I am his submissive wife, so I gave in to his every whim. My body was his, and I let him explore it in every way possible. I've never seen the things he asked for as intrusive or odd. He is my husband. What he needs, I believe I am there to provide for him as he has provided for me. My husband has said constantly that all he wants in life is me. Even though I believe all men want more. In the beginning, it was our little sexual encounters. He would text me with little tasks like, meet me with a trench coat and nothing else on. He would give me the location and then act surprised when I show up with high heels and a long trench coat. The first time was awkward. I was a shy little thing then. I didn't know what to do. He just stared at me as I stood there in this long trench coat. I felt ridiculous. "What are you doing here?" he asked me. At the time my only reply was, "I thought you texted me to come here like this." He looked at me weirdly, and I felt awkward. So, I just ran back to my car and hurried home. When he came in that night, he acted as if nothing had happened. Now to say my husband is weird would be an understatement, but I love him. As time went past, I forgot about the situation. One morning, as I was making breakfast, I received another text from my husband. Which was kind of weird, because I didn't see him send any text. I opened and read it, not thinking too much about it. It said, "You need to be more aggressive. Show me you want me for more than money." I was stunned. I almost dropped the phone as my husband came up and gave me a kiss before he left for work. I still did not notice his phone nestled inside of his inside pocket as it had been all morning, as he ate breakfast. I was so confused. Did my husband think I only wanted him for his money? I lied to you not. My husband is my everything. He is my rock and my strength. He has always been there for me. I know he is not a perfect 10, but he is mine. I surely did not marry him just for his money. Did I? No, ridiculous, I'm not that kind of girl. Months went on without another text. The whole entire time I wondered if he was truly happy with me, or how I could show him that I want him for more than his money. Our sex life was average. I gave him my body when he asked. But I felt he wanted more. Even though he would tell me I am more than enough. It's not like he was pulling away or working long hours. I just felt he wasn't happy enough. A year or so after the awkwardness, I got a call from my husband saying he was going to be working late. Which was not a surprise. He discussed his big project coming up and that this might happen. My husband is genuine and kind and has always stated what he wanted without question. An hour or so after the phone call I received from my husband, I got a text, more like a demand. It was from my husband's number. It simply said, "My office naked now." Without hesitation I showered, drew my hair in a ponytail and hopped in my DBS. I put the car into gear and gunned the massive engine. I don't know how many laws I broke sitting inside the leather interior naked. But I made it to his office within minutes. I hopped out of the car and marched through the office lobby building like a queen boss bitch. It was late, nobody was there. I marched into his office, and he looked at me in complete shock and awe. I stood there naked in front of my husband in his office. Before he got a chance to say anything, I smacked him. I grabbed him by the face and kissed him hard. Then I pulled back and smacked him again. This time I drew blood. He touched it, then looked at me. I kicked him out of the chair. He made a sound as he fell to the ground. I jumped on top of him, jammed my hand down his pants, and grabbed him. He sighed as I kissed him more passionately this time. There's more to tell, so all I'm going to say about that night is the only work he got done was me. Apparently, that night we officially started something. I call it my secret rendezvous, with him acting surprised to see me at the location he requested. It started out privately, it would be weird locations, but it would always be private locations. The bar bathroom. In the kitchen of a restaurant he owned. He would always want me to take charge. And I did, as I started to like it and get into it. I didn't have much control in my life, since all the money was his. Bank accounts, cars. I was his wife of over 5 years now. But these text messages, even though my husband was not much of a phone user, made me feel empowered. This text that I got from him had me thrown back a little. It simply said, "Take me there, no excuses." With an address. This was moments before my husband had walked into the house. I walked over, kissed him and then told him to get dressed. "Make sure you put on something nice," I said, and he responded, "I just walked in the house from work, babe, where are we going?" I smacked him as hard as I could and told him not to ask me questions. He said nothing more and went upstairs to take a shower. When we arrived at the building, we both looked confused. It was nothing much to look at. And there were no cars in front. A strange man came to my window who looked like he played in garbage for a living. I was terrified, to say the least. Even though my window was rolled up, I can swear I heard this man say, "Give me your keys." My husband jumped out of the car and started yelling at the man, saying he was going to call the police. That's when I got another text. It said, "Give him the keys, get into the building." My husband did have his phone out, so I thought nothing of it. Maybe this was all part of the game. I hopped out of the car, threw the man the keys, and dragged my husband into the building. "What the hell are you doing? He's driving away with our car." My husband yelled at me. As we walked into the building, I turned to him and grabbed him by the crotch. "Still in character," I said. "Watch your mouth when you talk to me in public." But he wasn't focused on me. He was looking over my shoulder. As I turned to see the scene that I had just walked into. "I think we're overdressed." My husband whispered and grabbed my hand, as if to leave. Everyone was naked, with beautiful perfect bodies. Men stood there with chisel abs, and a chest that Greek god would have been proud of. I was in my late 20s, but the women there looked like they came straight off the catalog runway. I knew I was pretty, but these women were drop-dead gorgeous. And it seemed like they were all waiting for us. It made me hot. I've never thought of cheating on my husband, but we were here together. I shrugged off his hand and made my way over to the bodies that stood there and laid sprawled out. No one moved. It was like they were statues for us to play with. I can't believe my husband set this up. As I gave in to my desires and slowly and methodically walked past each body, I touched and gently caressed different parts of their anatomies. The soft sound of them breathing was the only way I knew they were alive. I received another text it saying, "Choose wisely." Which in my mind meant the men are off limits. For me kind of sucked, because my husband was only my third sexual partner in my life. As I glance away from my phone and towards the men, who look like they would have no problem standing up without their feet touching the floor, I make my way over to a beautiful woman with dark red hair. It looked like it was on fire. I grabbed her by the hand, and she willingly followed me over to my husband. I stood her in front of my husband. Then I started kissing her from behind. I started at her neck and worked my way down. I caressed her breast in front of him, and I could see it was turning him on. We made our way over to another area that had a bed. She was a professional. I've never climaxed so many times in my life. My husband was done after the third, maybe fourth time. But I was insatiable. I squirted for the very first time. This red-headed woman pulled out all types of toys. And I wanted more. I made him speak to my box until his tongue could not move. my knees trembled and I felt weak. And I've never felt this type of pleasure before. I was exhausted and drained. I don't know how we got home. I wanted more. I could not wait for the next text. I looked at my phone constantly. Thankfully, I would not have to wait long. The text my husband sent dared me to go above and beyond. More open and public places, this behavior has landed us in trouble before. One time we got caught and arrested. Let's say he was walking my dog in a public park. Of course, the police showed up. They put us in a squad car together. So, I figure why stop now? Plus, I didn't think he was satisfied, so I put him in my mouth and finished the job. But the police were stunned. They let us off with a fine and a warning when they found out we were married. Time went by as me and my husband enjoyed our sexual escapades. Until the day I came home to find two people in my house. I almost freaked out when my phone went off. It was another text. It said, "He is yours. She will assist, I will watch." I walked over to the two individuals, standing in my living room, wearing white robes. I did not see my husband anywhere, but assumed he was watching. She stood to the side as she let the robe fall to the floor. I could see she was wearing a body-fitting all-leather one-piece, with a mask to match. I walked over to him and removed his robe for him. Standing there naked, he looked like he was ready to play a full game of baseball. And I was praying he would hit it out my box. I touched his body gently and kissed all over his sculptured physique. I bent down to put his bat inside of my mouth, when my head was quickly pulled back by my hair. The woman shook a finger in front of my face, gesturing, "No." Okay, so no sucky, I can understand that. So, I quickly stood up a little embarrassed. I should have known my husband would not have wanted another man inside of my mouth, but is he allowed to go inside of me? As the thought entered my mind, the woman brought the man closer to me and laid me down. She cleaned my cat like it was her lifetime mission from birth. Then he laid on top of me and gently put himself inside. I do not know how he did it. I think he probably made a new hole. He was gentle at first. As I started to loosen up, he started getting rougher and deeper. The way this man was moving his body had me convulsing like an epileptic having a seizure. I think I flooded my whole house. Oh, my God, this is a fantastic feeling. To have somebody dedicated to you and all your desires. Just somebody catering to you and all your wants and needs. Their only thought is of you. Never themselves, this was that feeling. I was too exhausted to show anybody the way out, after we were finished. The female that was there leaned in close to me, kissed me on the cheek and spoke. "I love you. See you later, sweetheart." I didn't respond, I didn't know what to say. I was too exhausted to do anything. I dozed off and woke up a couple of hours later, noticing my husband was still not home. I looked around the house. I got a text, and it said basement. And of course, it was from my husband's number. I assumed this was another game. I could not wait to see what it was about. Even though I was still sore from this man batting multiple home runs. God bless the gifted. I went downstairs to the basement, and I found my husband tied up trying to get loose with tears in his eyes. I rushed over to help him and got the ropes loose. He yelled at me, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I stared in disbelief. I stared at the situation, not knowing what was going on. My husband kept yelling. I thought this was some crazy sexual fantasy between me and you. At first, I didn't know where this was going. I just wanted to make you happy. Why would you sleep with another man in our house? Why would you do this to me? Then have him tie me up down here so I can watch. You've been into some sick stuff before, but this is too much. The world seemed to be spinning in a blur, and I didn't understand what was going on. I looked at my phone one more time. I knew my husband set all this up. I had the text messages to prove it. So, I unlocked my phone and opened my text app. I was about to show my husband proof of my innocence, and to stop the sick game he was playing. When I realized all his messages were gone, I didn't know what to do. I was devastated. I stared at my phone, as my husband left me there in the basement. Another text came in the form of videos of all the sexual encounters me and my husband have been through. From the moment that I walked into his office, to every public or private encounter we had. All the videos popped up on my text messages. I rushed upstairs to show my husband. All he said was, "So you recorded all our sexual escapades? Did you record the look in your face when he was on top of you? Did you enjoy the look in my face as you crushed me?" He said with tears in his eyes as he left the house. Since my husband has been gone, I learned about digital crimes and spoofing phone numbers. Got to be more careful. Brick wall stories.